Does anybody believe that the White House had no idea they were raiding Mar-a-Lago until they found out with everyone else? Remember, part of the reason, let's just say they actually are telling the truth that nobody knew and gave them a heads up beforehand. The raid started in the morning, and we didn't hear about it until the afternoon. So you're telling me these federal agents, by the way, dealing with Secret Service, who also protect the president, there was no communication that got back to the White House in any of those, 8 hours before it hit the news. If you believe that, you'll believe anything. Anything. It's obviously not true, and obviously they had to have known beforehand. We know that Christopher Wray apparently now is the guy who approved this. They're trying to tell us that Merrick Garland had nothing to do with it. I don't believe that either. I don't believe he had no knowledge either. But we will see as this unfolds over the next several weeks and months. And if the Republicans do get control of the House, which is not a certainty, but it is likely, you're going to see investigations in which a lot of these questions get asked. We'll see if we get any answers on it. So why is this so important? And I hit this yesterday, and I want to come back to it again. A Monmouth poll that came out about their latest effort to sink Donald Trump. And you might say to yourself, well, the war on Donald Trump. Is that fair? A lot of people will say, of course it's fair. Donald Trump's been attacked more than any other president. And I think that's true. Some people might say, though, but, look, Donald Trump gets himself into a lot of trouble. He talks himself into, he could have just played along with these guys from the beginning. He makes a lot of trouble for himself. And even I think the most ardent Trump fan would admit at times Donald Trump does make some problems for himself. But I don't think we've ever seen a section of elites target one particular person like they've targeted Trump. They just want this guy out. They want him gone in any way they can come up with. There's multiple investigations going on at the same time. It's just constant with this guy. And we do our best here to not sit here and talk to you about Donald Trump every day because he's not president of the United States. He was president of the United States, and he's no longer president of the United States. Now, he may be again. If he announces a run, he's going to be in the center of the news yet again. But the media and the left and the administration, that's not good enough for them. They have to draw him into the news cycle and talk about him around every single turn. No matter what is going on, this guy is the central focus of their life. And I don't know. I don't need that. I don't need to be thinking about one person all the time. Can we ever discuss anything else? So we've tried to do that here. I know a lot of conservative media likes to talk about Trump a lot, and that's totally cool. We need people who are covering that, but we don't need everybody covering it all the time. So generally speaking, we haven't talked about every little twist and turn that has gone on with Donald Trump. This obviously is not a little twist and turn. It's a big one. We have discussed the January 6th hearings a decent amount. And what was interesting about this, and I said this from the very beginning, it never seemed like an honest effort to actually find answers. If you could have an honest effort to find answers, I'd be interested in it. There are lots of questions I have. They're not all anti-Trump questions, though, and that's a big problem for the left and the media. I'd really like to know certain, why wasn't this set up? Why wasn't the security better beforehand? What happened to the bombs that were being sent around the city? Why do we have no more information on that? There's a lot of questions that I think are really rational to ask here, and very infrequently do we get any of them actually uttered because they're not necessarily against Donald Trump, which is, apparently all the media wants to do. But they spent a lot of time on this January 6th thing. And as this was going on, I said, look, I just don't think this is going to change anybody's mind. It doesn't seem like, I don't think they've really come up with much. The fact that they had their big bombshell moment was a Mike Pence aide talking about how Donald Trump wanted to go to the Capitol, which was completely in disagreement with every other piece of media hatred of Trump that preceded it, which was that he wanted to lock himself in the office while all of his people did the dirty work at the Capitol. Then when someone came out and said, hey, he wanted to go to the Capitol really badly, they all of a sudden said, I can't believe this. It's so terrible. He wanted to go to the Capitol. Well, that's the reverse of what you just said. And then The Secret Service came out and said, he didn't really get in that sort of fight. He didn't grab the wheel or anything like that. I mean, it just doesn't seem like they came up with anything. And the polling is now showing that really nobody's minds were changed. Let me give you some of this from the Monmouth poll. Was January 6th a riot? Before the hearings, 65%. After, 64%. So it actually went down by 1%. Was it an insurrection? Before, 50%. After, 52%. Ticked up a couple, but not much of a change. Was it a legitimate protest? 34% before, 35% after the hearings. Basically no change. Was Trump directly responsible? This is if there's any real news here, it's this one. 42% said he was directly responsible before the hearings. Only 38% did after. That's the biggest move in all of these polls. Biden won due to voter fraud. No movement at all. Are you paying a lot of attention to the hearings? 23%. And did the hearings change your mind? Only 8% after the hearings said that the hearings had changed their mind. And so this effort at January 6th to make that essentially the central election issue has failed, at least so far. Maybe something will come up. We don't know. The same thing with the raid at Mar-a-Lago. Look, if we find out that he was on the grassy knoll and he actually took out JFK, I'm going to be really upset about it. And I will be happy that he's being prosecuted for that. But they don't seem to ever produce this incredible evidence. They seem to hint that they have all the time. Now, while all this is going on, a totally separate investigation is going on in the state of New York. Now, he's had a previous investigation that wound up with a lot of headlines and then nothing at the end of it. That was in the New York District Court. Now we have the state effort at the exact same crap to go after Donald Trump for. This is with Letitia James. Donald Trump he was going to be deposed today and testified with Letitia James. He swore himself in. He then gave a statement. The statement included some stuff. He said, because this is one of the things they've, again, Donald Trump sometimes causes his own problems. He said over and over again, when someone pleads the fifth, it obviously shows they're guilty. Well, then he went into this thing with Letitia James, and he pled the fifth over and over and over again. Now, of course, his previous statement was just inaccurate. The Fifth Amendment it's not true that when you plead the fifth, you're guilty. He was wrong about that before. He obviously saw this slapback coming and said in his statement, I once asked, if you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment? Now I know the answer to that question, he said. When your family, your company, and all the people in your orbit have become the targets of an unfounded, politically motivated witch hunt, you have no choice. He said, under the advice of my counsel, I decline to answer the questions and the rights and privileges afforded to every citizen under the United States Constitution. And then every question thereafter, he said, same answer to Letitia James from the morning all the way till questions ended, with the exception of a lunch break, until 3 p.m. So hours and hours and hours of him sitting there waiting for the question to be finished and then saying same answer over and over and over again. So absolutely nothing came out of this, but that's another one. There's another investigation going on against him as well in New York, and that's just the way this is. This is this guy's life right now. They want to sink him really, really badly. And, they've wanted this for a long time. You'd think if they had great evidence to do it, it would have been done, but it does not seem to work. FBI took around 12 boxes from his home in the raid, according to his lawyer. They took about the 12 boxes, and they said they searched multiple areas of the property. They took about a dozen boxes that had been in the resort's basement storage area. There are reports they were also snooping around, oddly, Melania's closet and taking her clothes out. They're complaining about the way this was handled, the Trumps are. So we'll get more into that as we kind of get more details. I will say we're still at a very early point here. We don't really know what they were after. They're claiming that it was just a records request, which is obviously insane. I mean, it would be insane to raid a president's house over something like that. You'd think that they at least thought they were going to find something better than that, and maybe we're just using this as a ruse, which should not be excused, by the way. That's terrible practices, and it's why people can't stand some of these organizations. It really is, it's really brutal, and it's the wrong thing to do. Now, the fact that people are questioning the FBI, this used to be the territory of the left. The left used to tell you all the time how bad the FBI was. They're the worst people in the universe. They were constantly they were constantly going after people of color, and they were very corrupt and all of this. And there is some truth to that. The FBI has not been perfect. They're not my favorite organization in the world, but they've also done a lot of good work as well. Well, this has now totally changed. Now the left loves the FBI and the right is getting skeptical of them. And the folks over at MSNBC are going to tell you about all the important consequences that we face if the GOP continues to criticize the FBI.
I think the more dangerous trend, which really goes to what Ben was talking about, is the demonization of law enforcement over the years. It's a little bit odd to watch them be pro-law enforcement at the same point talking about attacking law enforcement. FBI is part of law enforcement. Separately, when you look at the violent rhetoric, the more violent rhetoric there is, the more the chance of what's known as stochastic terrorism. Whereas the larger the audience, the larger the crowd, the higher the number of threats, the more probable it is that a random actor, a lone actor, will actually reach out and pursue violence under this auspices. I would also like to note just that there's a foreign element to this. We've seen in the case of the COVID-19 lockdowns, January 6th, election 2020, whether it's Russia, Iran, or China using cell phones or social media to try and incite conflict. You see this whenever crowds are really worked up. It's a great opportunity for a foreign power to really just put a pinprick in there and really push someone towards violence.
You know, there wasn't a big pushback from MSNBC on that, unlike what they did, throughout the entire Bush administration, for example, when it came to the FBI and investing terrorism. I don't know. Is it true the right is turned on law enforcement? I mean, I don't think that's true. I know we have one side of the aisle that's trying to defund the police for months and months and months and months. The FBI is showing real problems, though, with the way that they're doing things. And I don't think people blame necessarily the FBI for this raid. I guess some do. I don't know that I do. I don't necessarily blame the FBI for this raid. It does feel like it has a lot of political connotations behind it. And people in the leadership of the FBI are directing the agents to do things that they shouldn't be doing. You might like the Secret Service, but the Secret Service was there letting them in. And they apparently knew about it the day before. But not Joe Biden. He had no idea. Him and Karine Jean-Pierre had absolutely no clue this was going to happen. Now, another investigation going on with the House, and there's been a fight back and forth between Trump and the House on whether they can get access to his taxes. He's been trying to protect those for a long time, and obviously if the House gets a hold of them, they're going to leak them to the media. There's 0% chance they're going to hold those lines that are supposed to be appropriate. Appeals Court has now said that the House can obtain Trump's taxes from the IRS, a 3-0 ruling from the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. He's been trying to say that this shouldn't happen, but they want them. They want every little piece. I mean, this is really their entire platform. Their entire platform is spending trillions of dollars and trying to get Donald Trump arrested. They seem to have absolutely nothing left, which is strange. And, all of this goes to, and I go back and forth on this. Honestly, I can understand the analysis that they want to take out Donald Trump at any cost. And I think that's true. They do. But on the other hand, I don't understand how they're reading this room this way. It's one thing to say that this is going to hurt, investigations are going to hurt Donald Trump in, let's say, a general election. I think that's probably true. I think some people will not look into these things, and you're watching the Kardashians. You're not necessarily paying attention to every twist and turn here. You're going to hear investigation. It's going to be bad. It's one of the reasons why Donald Trump won in 2016. Whether you like, Hillary's selling hats that say butter emails, but the bottom line is 10 or 11 days before the election, an FBI investigation was announced against his opponent. That was, even if you didn't follow the details of it, a tough thing for Hillary to overcome. And it worked in Donald Trump's favor that time. A pending FBI investigation, a bunch of investigations, a bunch of charges against a candidate, it's never really a good thing, except right now. Because right now you're in a position where Donald Trump obviously leads the party. He's ahead in every poll when you're talking about the primary. And if you've seen anything over the past 6 months, maybe you've seen a slight tightening between him and Ron DeSantis. And as DeSantis, who has been picking up momentum, is catching up to Donald Trump, then you have this type of event, which solidifies Trump's base more than probably anything else could. It looks like he's being politically targeted by the power in Washington, D.C., by the Biden Justice Department. People see that happening and say, this is crazy. They want this guy out so badly, they'll bend and break every single rule. I'm not putting up with it. This, if anything, helps Donald Trump. Now, some people, even on CNN, have noticed this. I want you to watch this clip. This is from CNN the other day.
What do you think is going through his mind and their minds?
Oh, I think they're delighted. This is a surprising answer, but I think that they've been planning for this for years. Donald Trump first did his reaction to the FBI, actually having his lawyer call them Gestapo and stormtroopers 50 years ago. So he's been prepared for this strategy all along. He issued a campaign-style commercial within hours. This was prepared in advance. So he's an expert at spinning everything into publicity. He believes all publicity is good publicity. And that hardcore Trump group, 35% of the electorate, is going to be electrified by this. I think he's having a good day, actually.
That's Donald Trump's, one of his biographers who wrote a book about him before he was even really into the political side of it. Look, I think that's accurate. I think it's true. About 35% of the country is, roughly, are hardcore Trump supporters. And they're just going to be solidified by this. They're going to be rock solid. I'm walking through a wall of fire to go vote for this guy. And while 35% will not win you a general election, it will win you a Republican primary. It will win you a Republican primary easily. So if what they wanted was Donald Trump to go away, well, I don't think they helped themselves with all these shenanigans over the past couple of days. If what they wanted was Donald Trump, sorry, this has been upside down. What they wanted was Donald Trump to run again because they think they can beat him or something, like they thought in 2016, they may get their wish. But I will tell you, if you ask any Democrat from 2016, they might remember that all wishes don't turn into happy days.
If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to our channel so you'll be sure to see similar videos from Blaze TV with the added bonus of signaling YouTube that your voice and opinion still matters. And if you're looking for more great conservative content, check out one of the 2 videos suggested here.